You meet someone new, drinks are warm, lighting is low, and the conversation feels effortless. But right now, buried inside that easy chat, your future self is begging you to notice something. Because statistically, within the first 7 minutes of a first conversation, you have already been given the data you need to predict the entire relationship. The problem isn't that the red flags aren't there. The problem is that your brain is hardwired to paint them green. In the next 15 minutes, I am going to show you the 10 psychological patterns you are walking past every single time. And number seven is the one that fools even the therapists. Red flag 1, the anchor of complaint. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. She went on a first date with a man named Mark. Within 8 minutes, Mark had told her about his terrible ex, his demanding boss, and the barista who got his coffee order wrong. Sarah thought he was just being honest. She thought he was sharing his real life, but here is what she missed. Psychologists call this negative anchoring. It is the act of establishing the emotional baseline of a relationship inside complaint. Mark wasn't venting. He was telling Sarah that his world is a series of wrongs committed against him. And more dangerously, he was testing whether she would validate those wrongs. The red flag is not the complaint itself. The red flag is when the first 3 stories you hear from someone all cast them as the victim. Because if everything is always someone else's fault on day 1, guess who becomes the someone else on day 90? Red flag 2, the forced intimacy vendor. Now look at David. David met Chloe at a bookstore, charming guy. Within 20 minutes, David was telling Chloe about his childhood trauma, his fear of abandonment, and a health scare from last year. Chloe felt special. She thought, wow, he trusts me. He is so open. That feeling of being special is the trap. Behavioral psychology has a term for this. It is called accelerated intimacy, and it is the favorite tool of people who do not understand healthy boundaries. Here is the rule. Genuine connection builds like a staircase, step by step. The forced intimacy vendor tries to jump from the ground floor to the penthouse in one conversation. They make you feel chosen so that you lower your guard. But ask yourself this, if a stranger is willing to share their deepest wounds with you in the first hour, who else have they shared those same stories with this week? Intimacy without investment is not vulnerability. It is a performance. Red flag 3. The question interrogator. Let me introduce you to a man named James. James prides himself on being a great listener. On a first date, he fires questions. What do you do? Where did you grow up? Why did that relationship end? What are your ambitions? Rapid fire. His date thinks, finally, someone who is interested in me. But watch closely. Count how many questions James answers about himself. Here is the psychology. The question interrogator is not curious. The question interrogator is controlling. By forcing you to reveal everything about yourself while sharing nothing, they collect ammunition and avoid exposure. You leave the conversation feeling known, but you realize you know nothing about them. That is not a conversation. That is a deposition. And in relationships, information asymmetry is power. If they know your fears, your history, and your triggers, but you know nothing of theirs, you are not building a bond. You are building a file on yourself for someone else to use. Red flag 5, the humility bait. Now listen closely, because this is the one that gets the good people. You are talking to someone. They say, I am probably just overthinking this, or I know I am not the smartest person in the room, or you are going to think I am crazy for saying this. On the surface, this sounds like humility. Underneath, it is a psychological move called preemptive self-deprecation. The function of this move is to disarm your critical thinking. Because once they have called themselves stupid, you cannot call them stupid without looking mean. Once they have admitted they might be wrong, you cannot correct them without feeling cruel. The humility bait is a shield. And the people who use it most often are the people who cannot tolerate genuine feedback. Watch for this. If someone insults themselves within the first 30 minutes, they are not humble. They are controlling the thermostat of criticism. They are making sure you never feel allowed to disagree. Red flag 6, the label gun. This is fast. Within a few sentences, they start labeling you. You are so ethical. You are such a healer. You have major leader energy. These sound like compliments, but a label is not a compliment. A compliment describes a behavior. A label defines an identity. And here is the danger. When someone labels you positively, they are simultaneously telling you what they expect from you. If you are the healer, you cannot be angry. If you are the strong one, you cannot be weak. If you are the leader, you cannot be confused. The label gun is not celebrating you. The label gun is building a cage for you to fit into. The healthiest people do not label you in the first conversation. They ask you who you are. They do not tell you who you are. The moment someone hands you a label, hand it back and say, "Tell me more about why you see it that way." Their answer will tell you everything. Red flag 7, the ego vacuum. I promised you this was the one that fools therapists, and it is, the ego vacuum. This is the person who never says I. They say we, you, people, or one. They speak in generalities. People get so emotional about politics. One should always be honest. You just have to trust the process. Listen to how rarely they claim a personal opinion. This feels selfless. It feels diplomatic. But here is the truth. The ego vacuum is terrified of having an ego, and that terror is its own massive ego. By never saying I think or I feel, they avoid all responsibility for their own beliefs. They cannot be attacked because they never took a position. They cannot be judged because they never claimed anything. But a relationship with a person who has no expressed self is a relationship with a ghost. You will spend years trying to figure out what they actually want, only to realize they do not even know. If after an hour you cannot describe their specific, unique opinion on one single thing, you are not talking to a person, you are talking to an absence. Red flag 8, the savior story. This one is magnetic. You are telling them about a problem you have. Nothing major, maybe work stress, maybe a family thing, and they lean in and say, I know exactly how to fix that. Then they give you a 5-step plan. They have solved your problem in 60 seconds. You feel relieved, you feel protected, but you should feel warned. The savior story is a red flag because it reveals a person who cannot tolerate mystery. They cannot sit in the discomfort of not knowing. They cannot simply listen, they must rescue. And here is the dark side of the rescuer. Rescuers need people to rescue. If you are always the one with the solution, then you need the other person to always have the problem. So subconsciously they will keep you in a state of slight brokenness. They will never celebrate your independence because your dependence is their identity. If someone tries to fix you in the first conversation, do not thank them. Run, because the only person who can fix you is you. Red flag 9, the pause thief. Watch the rhythm of the conversation. This is not what they say, this is when they say it. The pause. Thief never lets there be silence. The moment you finish a sentence, they jump in. Not to agree, not to ask a question, but to fill the space with their own story. You say, I had a rough week. They say, oh, tell me about rough. My week was insane, let me tell you. This person is not rude, this person is anxious, and that anxiety is a red flag. Because the inability to tolerate a 3-second pause in a first conversation is the inability to tolerate emotional depth. Silence is where connection lives. Silence is where you process, where you feel, where you decide if you actually like someone. The pause thief steals silence because silence makes them feel the void inside themselves. They must fill every gap with words, with stories, with anything. But here is the test. Try to pause for 4 seconds, just 4. If they twitch, if they interrupt, If they laugh nervously, you have your answer. They are not ready for real intimacy. They are ready for a performance. Red flag 10, the mirror. Finally, the most deceptive red flag of all, the mirror. This is the person who agrees with everything you say. You love hiking. They love hiking. You hate loud restaurants. They hate loud restaurants. You think a certain movie is underrated. They have been saying that for years. This feels like a soulmate. It is not. It is a mirror. And a mirror is not a person. Psychologically, the mirror is either conflict-avoidant or manipulative. Either way, they are not present. They are reflecting you back to yourself because it is the fastest way to make you like them. But here is the truth you do not want to hear. Comfortable agreement is not connection. Tension is connection. Small, respectful disagreements are where intimacy is built. If you have not disagreed on something minor by the end of the first conversation, you have not met a person. You have met a reflection. Ask a question you know they might disagree with. Say you like a controversial band, a strange food, an unpopular opinion. Watch what happens. The mirror will contort to match you. A real person will pause and say, "Really, I see it differently." That pause is the sound of authenticity, the recognition of the red flags. So here is where you are right now. You have these 10 flags, and you are probably feeling one of two things: either relief, because you finally have words for the unease you have always felt, or anxiety, because you realize how many conversations you have been sleepwalking through. Let me tell you something important. Seeing the red flag is not the same as acting on it. Your brain is going to try to explain it away. They were just nervous. It was only the first time. Maybe I am being too harsh. That voice is the voice of your own loneliness trying to negotiate with reality. Do not negotiate. A first conversation is not a commitment. It is an audition. And you are not being mean by noticing patterns. You are being observant. Every single person you meet will show you who they are within the first hour. The only question is whether you are willing to believe them. Finally, do not try to spot all 10. So here is your challenge for the next first conversation you have. Do not try to spot all 10. Just pick one, the anchor, the forced intimacy, the pause thief. Watch for it. And when you see it, do not argue with it. Do not try to fix it. Just notice it and let that notice be enough. Because the people who belong in your life, they will not need you to ignore your instincts. They will not ask you to paint red flags green. They will show up, pause when you pause, disagree when it matters, and leave you knowing more about them than you knew before you spoke. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for pattern recognition, and now you have the patterns. The rest is just having the courage to trust what you see.